Greetings everyone, welcome back to a very special Brawl Theory video. I am joined by none other than Sub-Zero Turnup, one of the most well-known Brawl theorists within the community. Together, we will be uncovering more of the secrets behind Starr Park.
Specifically focusing on the recent mystery at the Hub update, which provided us with a clearer picture of Starr Park, new Morse codes, and important information when it comes to WKBRL. All that and so much more, so without further ado, let's get into it.
For starters, we seem to be on the brink of some huge lore developments, with Morse codes appearing in the newest environment, as well as being present within RT's voice lines. But before we address those and the new update, we should first make note of the multiple instances where important elements from this theme have made subtle appearances in past updates.
The "Smile You Are on Camera" message first appeared in Season 14, the Robot Factory environment, accompanied along with a security camera. It was visible at the top of the showdown maps and seems to have a more important impact than we had originally believed. That same message on the sign appeared in the most recent Brawl Talk announcement post, and seems to have a strong theme attached to this update and the Brawler RT.
Now, when it comes to RT, we have a lot of theories regarding him and his objectives. We will be dividing this section into multiple subcategories, including brawler-specific theories, WKBRL connections, Morse code postulations, and overarching narrative assumptions. To begin, many people believe that RT stands for real time, but we don't believe that is the case. We think what it indicates has a much more important impact on the overarching theme. Seeing as though RT is a robotic machine that monitors and records the activity of individuals within Starr Park, we can assume that the name would pay slight homage to that. This is why I believe the R stands for recorder, since that is his main purpose and intent, to record. Now, to determine what the T stands for, we need to examine a bit more of RT's character. In the previews leading up to Brawl Talk, small but important traits of RT's character began to appear. The first element was a rectangular object that shared a strong resemblance to old tapes or cassettes that were popular in the 1970s and 1980s. If we put two and two together, recorder and tape, and created a singular acronym for those words, it would be RT. In addition, the recorder tape that we saw in the sneak peeks leading up to the update is actually visible when RT activates his super and splits into two halves. This allows us to clearly see the bottom section of his body, which seems to be a portable audio cassette player. Believe it or not, RT's connections to Starr Park are stronger than Gus's, and even date back to the investor video in 2020. For starters, there is a security camera in the Starr Park gift shop conveniently fixated on Gus, who we know to be one of the lost individuals at Starr Park. Not only is he watching over the showdown lobby, but he also has cameras hidden elsewhere, in places you may not expect, such as Kairos Tim's studio and El Primo's bedroom. I will elaborate on this point further in the video. The point regarding Kairos Tim, not why RT is stalking El Primo, because that is only something RT can answer.
Adios, mundo cruel!
RT's character alone is not the only peculiar thing, because his brawler description is also very interesting. Here is a screenshot for those who were wondering. Now, if you recall in my previous Brawl Theory videos, where I uncovered the truth behind Gus, I theorized that he was a lost child of Starr Park, a victim to be exact. And in RT's brawler description, it says that if you are lost in Starr Park, he will monitor you. And it's interesting to point out that the child in the investor video who looks like Gus, behind him, you would be able to spot a security camera that seems to be solely focusing on Gus and him alone. This could mean that if you find any other cameras in the video, they will most likely be panned on lost or captured individuals, mostly in secret. Another instance is with an individual who I believed was trapped and captured by Starr Corporation from the very beginning, that being Kairos Tim. You can clearly see a security camera focused solely on Kairos Tim, who I theorized to be a victim of Starr Park in an earlier video. This further proves the theory that RT is controlling the security cameras and watching all of the lost individuals of Starr Park, and that this update has either been in development for years, or the new concept artist is specifically basing new brawlers off the lore. Makes you think that the things we've seen in the past are actually more important than they seemed.
Another connection we have with RT is the fact that we can see a tape recorder among the equipment on the WKBRL stream. This is incredibly important considering RT is literally a walking tape machine that goes around recording audio and visuals of other brawlers without their knowledge. In any case, because it's hooked up to the receiver, this could imply that some of the older sounds on WKBRL, specifically the advertisements before the rant, are actually pre-recorded tapes from another era. And this lines up with something said on The Voice That Hears You, where they mention Ogawa Roofing Company. Now, Ogawa was originally a Japanese roof repair ad on WKBRL 1.0, but in The Voice That Hears You, one of the hosts says Ogawa has not fixed roofs in decades. Now, ignoring the fact that Starr Corp almost certainly can control time to an extent, this shouldn't be physically possible since no more than 2 years passed before the first airing of the Ogawa ad and what the host was telling us on The Voice That Hears You.
Now, with that being said, this would probably only be the case up until the rant, since the alarms perfectly coincide with him being dragged out of the station. And The Voice That Hears You is definitely not pre-recorded, as the introduction is blatantly broadcasting live from Starr Park. So by this point, the studio is no longer streaming the tapes. RT also has a plethora of reference-filled voice lines, including "Live from Starr Park," "This is normal," "In my absence, please read the Starr Park FAQ," "Welcome to Starr Park," as well as a couple of others. And while most of these are fairly recognizable, like "This is normal" being a reference to the infamous quote on Starr Radio, some of them are a bit more suspicious. Obscured talking over a radio, certain unidentified sounds, and most importantly, a brand new Morse code. And while we've had a ton of those this season, this one is certainly the most cryptic. Thanks to Dandy running it through a spectrogram, he was able to translate this audio voice line into visual data, allowing it to be easily read rather than having to go by ear.
With this in mind, we can see that the silence between the beeps is double the normal lengths right here and here, which means that they can be divided into 3 characters, and as the beeps right here are twice as long as the beeps here, we can translate them as dot 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 dash, dash dot dot dash, and dash dash dot dot, or in actual letters, 4XZ. Which unfortunately leaves us just about as confused as when we first discovered WKBRL and assumed it was just a bunch of gibberish.
Now, this could mean several things, as 4XZ happens to be a radio frequency originating from either Israel or New Zealand. It connects back to RT, since the robot is related to radio signals. Another possibility that Sub-Zero Turner proposed is that 4XZ is read as forks, which the ranter did repeat numerous times on the WKBRL stream. Now, it's worth noting that when the ranter said this, he was talking about weaponized spaghetti, and how it could sometimes be radioactive or contain radioactive materials, considering it has a half-life of 1 billion years, which is a term used to describe how long a radioactive isotope will stay radioactive.
We can see this spaghetti multiple times throughout the lore, such as in the second phase of the 8-bit minigame, on the Starr Park website, in the Brawlies, and even in 2 official sponsorships paid for by Supercell. In one of these videos showing the viewer how to make spaghetti on a stick, they specifically mentioned that one of the reasons it's made this way is that it prevents you from having to wash dishes, such as forks. In addition to saving time and resources for the park, this would also prevent the spread of contamination of the aforementioned radioactive materials where it's not wanted.
We are now once again being given a vague Morse code with 2 letters and 1 number. It wouldn't be a jump for us to predict that we may be getting a brand new season relating to forks, perhaps a food-related environment.
Just like Lex has predicted in the past, and this would support that hypothesis. Every theme park in existence has some sort of snack bar, food court, restaurant, or other places to sit down and get some food. It's such a big part of the theme park experience that Supercell could easily create an entire season around it. Not to mention we have multiple food-related skins that don't have an environment to call home yet, such as Burger Lou or Chef Mike. And while not every skin has its own place, most of them are related to an event or a location that we've been shown before.
Speaking of RT's voice lines, since he himself is a portable tape recorder, it begs the question of whether or not he's aware and conscious, or just an electronically operated system, with voice lines and sound effects being audio tapes inputted into his system. In addition, his voice lines sound very technical and to the book, as if the Starr Corporation officials knew what messages they intended for RT to convey to the public in a friendly and less pretentious manner to limit any suspicious inquiries. This also lines up with his brawler description. And what's really interesting is the mention of being lost within Starr Park. This lines up with the maps that are given to guests by this machine, which we know because Hunt noticed the markings here, which spells out maps. And this isn't the first time we've heard about a so-called lost individual in Starr Park. For example, Gus's description states that he followed a floating balloon dog and has been missing ever since. I recommend you check out these videos where I address the lore surrounding Gus and the other lost/captured individuals at Starr Park. Furthermore, Gus's brawler description seems to coincide with Starr Park's signature, saying it's a place you'll never want to leave, and once guests enter, Starr Corporation will do everything in their power to prevent that from happening. Additionally, I believe that RT is operating that camera and that the control room where all of the security cameras are monitored is located where the original WKBRL livestream was broadcasting from. The WKBRL stream could be located in the Starr Tower, which is a branch off of Starr Park, accessible from a hallway. If you look closely inside the tower, you can see some sort of electronic device flashing. If we were given a closer look into the tower, I assume that we would see the WKBRL radio setup. We do get a small glimpse of that setup in this shot within the Brawl Talk. And interestingly enough, on the starpark.biz website, there is an image of a hallway. At the end of it, there is a door. That door, I believe, leads into the Starr Tower. That room itself looks a little circular from the glimpse of the roof, and we know that the hallway image from the starpark.biz website has a circular door at the end. From the angle that we are viewing RT, on the left side you can see what looks to be a television. That could be the object that we see in the Starr Tower from the angle we are given. The Ranter has a big part in the lore developments going forward, and as more layers of the mystery are peeled back, we will see that all of the answers were in plain sight, and we just needed to connect the dots.
Great, so now that we've covered RT, we should also probably talk a bit more about the tower that he resides in, this thing right here, because it may hold a few more secrets than it appears. We know it's his tower because when he's not in a battle, he's sitting in front of the screens pushing El Primo super into the enemy territory in gem grab. Plus, this is the subject of his whole intro animation that we saw in Brawl Talk, and suspiciously, within this animation, we also happen to see something that looks a lot like the equipment on the old WKBRL stream. Now, the location of the entirety of Starr Park, let alone the WKBRL stream, has always been a tricky subject to nail down. Not only have we seen several versions of Starr Park throughout the years, but we've also seen a huge number of changes to the stream itself. Energy drink spills, alarms, and sudden cuts to black have all made their way onto the screen throughout the years. And so far, the community has divided them into 3 categories, WKBRL 1, 2, and 3 depending on their state of the radio. Theorists, most notably Kairos, deduced this from the number 3.0 painted on the banner of the Voice That Hears You's channel page. Because of this, on the Starchives playlists, they've been separated into WKBR 1.0, the beginning up until the energy drink spill, WKBRL 2.0, the rant to the sounds of water dripping, and WKBRL 3.0, the Voice That Hears You until retirement. Now, whether it will make a comeback or if we'll see something similar on April 19th is yet to be seen, but for now, these are all the sound clips we have. But where exactly is WKBRL? Well, we have several viable contenders in our midst. For starters, we have Tara's Bazaar, where we first found WKBRL. This would make a lot of sense as when the equipment is moved to the Voice That Hears You, it is also removed from its original location, presumably because StarCorp became aware of its existence. The second is within Super City. One of the hosts of The Voice That Hears You states, "Keep your eyes pointed to the flashing radio tower," which we can clearly see right here in Season 2. Uncoincidentally, it's also blinking WKBRL in Morse code, which implies that this is the location of the radio studio. This is further supported by the Starr logo plastered on the side of the building, which was one of the first mentions of Starr within the game. Our third major contender, as Michael mentioned before, is the watchtower within the hub. If we stop at just the right moment in RT's Brawl Talk animation, we can see some machines that look nearly identical to the stream we know and love, and as the walls in the background match the dark illuminated area of WKBR 1.0, this would fit quite nicely. So which one is correct? Well, it's really hard to actually weed each one out. All locations have actual antennas which would allow them to transmit radio signals across the park. But what if instead of just one area, all of the aforementioned areas were involved in some way? To begin, let's assume that Super City is the main station distributor. They have an industrial tower that only Starr Corporation would be able to build and fund. Plus, we have songs that are being endorsed and sent out by Starr Corp before WKBRL 3.0, introduced as messages for Marco to stop spilling secrets, for a nosy Adrian Carter, for Zipper04 who cracked open an egg full of someone else's secrets, and other members of the community who made major discoveries and lore. These are obviously sent by a radio station that both doesn't want people finding their secrets, but also doesn't seem to be able to shut off the livestream that's being sent to us. In any case, for now, we'll say that the hub is just an area that is tuned into the station. Now, I say this because I don't think Ranter snuck into the same room that we saw on screen in 1.0. To quote Ranter, "I snuck in here and I was able to dug in through the basement door." Now, assuming that this area is in the hub, it would be physically impossible for anyone to dig through it, because the tower is, well, a tower. It's completely elevated above the ground, so there is no basement, and we can also hear him say, "Someone's coming, maybe it's a record producer."
This is interesting for two reasons. One, he is able to hear the people coming up and down the hallway, which would once again be impossible in such an enclosed area. And two, he says that he's in a radio station. This suggests that he's broken into the Voice That Hears You studios. You can even hear him pick up what sounds to be a script, including birthdays, announcements, and the weather.
Furthermore, if it was the same room we were shown on screen, Jesse would not be locked out because there would be a massive hole underneath the door, considering he dug through the entrance. Lastly, we're only able to hear Ranter on the radio after the energy drink spills onto the equipment, super boosting the signal and making it clear enough to hear, and occasionally some of the words are obscured by the radio static as he fades in and out, something that the interference wouldn't affect if you were in the same room as the stream. But if we take a second listen to "Locked Out, Can Anyone Hear Me? Let Me In?", it's clear and seems to be separate from the staticky "We already told you, this is normal", which would mean that it's in the same room as we're shown here.
This would mean that the hub is the location that is shown in WKBRL 1, which is listening to broadcasts from the radio station in Super City. The only thing left unanswered by this is the importance of the bizarre transmitter. It seems unlikely that its only purpose was to blink in Morse code. I mean, technically it was, since its purpose was to introduce the lore of the game.
Since RT is almost certainly on the side of Starr Park, it wouldn't make a lot of sense for him to be the one broadcasting the WKBRL stream to the Brawl Stars community. They obviously don't want their secrets to be known by the public. So someone is obviously operating the livestream against Supergiant Starr Corporation's wishes, and if it isn't RT, then who is it? Previously, many suspected Pam as her remodel was announced on April 19th, 2020, the same day the stream went live, with a picture of her gear necklace, and that same gear can be found resting on the tape recorder in WKBRL 1.0. However, this seems less likely to be the case because 1 year later, a girl was heard banging on the door. This girl happens to sound a lot like Jessie, and it's likely it is because the only person who would know where the stream is would be the person who set it up. And we hear the host of The Voice That Hears You specifically mention what happened to Jessie, indicating she was likely dealt with by Starr. In addition, the Tarbazaar transmitter happens to be both blue and yellow, the same color scheme as Jessie's outfit and Scrappy. This would also still match the cog pendant on the stream and the transmitter, as all three members of the Scrap Trio brandish the symbol. So it's highly likely that Jessie is the link between WKBRL and the Brawl Stars community, and that she's the one who set up the machinery in Season 1, all to notify us of what's happening behind the scenes.
In closing, it seems that the Mystery at the Hub update is the most lore-filled season we have received thus far, apart from Season 3, and with Morse codes appearing left and right, it's inevitable that something big is on the horizon. Could it be WKBRL 4.0? We will definitely find out soon, so in the meantime be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss future Brawl Theory videos, because that is a wrap. Make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed it, and check out some other lore-related videos I have on the channel. Huge shout out to Sub-Zero Turnup for collaborating with me on this video. I really appreciate it.
So thanks for watching.
And have a great rest of your day.